Hello, world. Whew. All right. Welcome today to our Thursday conclave entitled Harm Reduction, specifically around 5-MeO-DMT. I'll touch on DMT a little bit here as well. Short-acting tryptamine seemed to be the topic of um, tonight's broadcast. So thanks again for joining me. And yeah, I invite you just to take a few breaths. I'm going to take maybe 3 breaths to kind of get myself balanced. If you'd like to join me, just in through the nose and a sigh out the mouth. All right. Wow. Feels great. So, yeah, again, thank you for joining me. And the intention for bringing these conclaves to you is to continue to offer wisdom, teachings, experience as uh, we have accumulated throughout our time working with these medicines and in life. And the greater intention of the church is to really offer a safe community for all of us to gather, to share, to commune. And the higher purpose is really to reunite science and spirituality in a way where it brings us back to the whole of being, the whole of being ourselves. And we can sort of work through all the languaging, but I think at the end of the day, when we can really recognize that these are the same things intertwined, working in symphony, then wow, what's possible? That's a big question. So, my name is Benjamin Moore, and I am going to be talking today. And I'm an Army veteran. I've been working in this space since 2020, facilitating and holding space in the various different capacities, specifically with 5-MeO-DMT. Um, and I work with a few different retreat operations, one in Colorado, one in Texas, that are really leading the way in how these ceremonies are conducted and how people are treated in ceremony and how they're given a path to follow to get back to themselves. So it's really an honor to have the capacity to serve in that way and to be here present for you. And so really appreciate you attending and watching. So if it feels good to you, please like this, subscribe, share it. We want to get the word out and bring this information to human beings everywhere. So with that being said, we currently have a harm reduction guide for low 5, light wands, and other various approaches to using 5-MeO-DMT in a non uh, existential way beyond the ego. And then a microdosing guide as well. So we can find those on the church's website. Um, we will be here in Colorado for the MAPS conference. We have a few different events that we'll be attending. Well, maybe we'll share them in social. And then we have to finish out MAPS on the 21st in the morning. We have a solstice light wand meditation where we're going to be facilitating a flow uh, from opening through breath work featuring my friend Leland Holgate from the Willful Warrior and music led by Liquid Bloom. So it's going to be a really amazing experience. And there will be an in-person component for invitees only, and that will be hosted at Ceremonia. So if you're coming for the afters, maybe that's a good place to get your relaxation. I know they have a few events going on that day, and it's really a good opportunity to get into a nice long flow of decompression, as it were. So anyway, moving on to the topic of tonight's conversation. And so I'm going to begin with talking a little about the science and sort of the spiritual depth of this medicine and um, how it works in the body, how it works chemically, and what systems it's working on, and yeah, sort of the subjective effects and how you can expect the experience to flow. So 5-MeO-DMT, if you look at it on an image. It's very similar to DMT. So I'm going to bring those up. Let's see if that works. Boom, there it is. Okay, so that's DMT, dimethyltryptamine, the visual component of ayahuasca. And so you notice how the skeleton is shaped, essentially very recognizable if you have been in the psychedelic space or have been researching these compounds for a period of time. And so this is DMT, and then 5-MeO-DMT is here. So the only difference is it has a methoxy group at the 5th position. So it has a little bit of different effects on the body. So DMT itself has an affinity for the serotonin 2A receptor, or what commonly referred to as the 5-HT2A receptor. Now this site modulates your sensory experience. So like vision, primarily vision, but also smell, sound, taste. Typically, why you can have what's called synesthesia, where you mix your senses up, because this medicine is going into that receptor and shaking things up a bit. And then 5-MeO-DMT has an affinity for the serotonin 1A receptor, and that receptor modulates rest, digest, gastro processing, and relaxation. And so it also modulates some aspects of behavior and brain function, including anxiety and pain perception as well. So very, very similar if you look at the structure, but different as far as pharmacological effects on the body. And again, when you work with 5-MeO-DMT, it has 1,000-time greater affinity for the serotonin 1A receptor. Now, that doesn't mean it's not going to agonize the other receptor, and you're not going to get some psychedelic-like effects like visuals, but that's once it's flooded the 5-HT1A receptor. So those effects are minimal, and the processing of this medicine is very rapid. So the onset is within seconds, maybe 10 seconds, 30 seconds, depending, and then it will last, typically 15 to 20 minutes at the height of the experience. So if you're going to go into a deep dive, it's going to be about 15, 20-minute ride, and then you kind of land, come into the afterglow period of bliss and of floating, and just really a nice experience on the body. And then obviously the pain system has been like sort of turned off for a period of time. So oftentimes people describe this as being in like the least amount of pain they've ever been in. If you have like chronic pain through the body, it's very effective at helping to kind of rise above that for a period of time. And then lesser pain and going beyond that, because it's like sort of reduces tension on those pain receptors. So and then the neuroplasticity can last, they say, like 30 to 60 days post one experience. And then okay, so there's many different ways to administer this medicine. There is you can take this as the pure form of 5-MeO-DMT is in the synthetic form or extracted from Phalaris grass. There's some other plants that have 5-MeO-DMT in very, very small amounts, very difficult to extract from, but it does exist. So anyway, you can vaporize this compound, which is the most typical way, just like heat it in an oil burner, turn to vapor, and then it's inhaled and held in the lungs. It's the most direct way, the fastest route of administration, the shortest duration and onset of effects. And then it can be insufflated, which through the nose. And the duration of effects there lasts between maybe 60 and 80 minutes, depending obviously on your system and how efficient it's working. And then it can be, as they classically called, boofed. So you can take it as a suppository and get some pretty intense effects that way. And then there are different delivery systems or delivery vehicles of this. So there are obviously using a cartridge, like similar to a THC cartridge, to work with it, and what we call like low 5. Low 5 is just like a microdose or medium dose application. So it's not putting a whole full release dose in a burner and then torching it and going on to another dimension. It's sort of like just tiptoeing in to the experience. And then the other the other form of the medicine is from the Bufo Alvarius toad. So this toad is yeah, the mightiest toad that lives. It's the largest toad species on the planet, and it lives in the Sonoran Desert. So that extends from Mexico up into Arizona and other parts of the U.S. And so there is 40, I say 40 to 60, maybe 40 to 50% of the excretion of the Bufo toad is 5-MeO-DMT. The other compounds are lesser tryptamines and other compounds that are typically destroyed when vaporized. And so there is subjective differences, and some will argue one way or another, depending on their what team they're fighting for. But I'll tell you, in the experience I have and worked with others, there's some textual differences in the ascension, right? So obviously, when you can go to the purity and get a full release, if that's the pursuit, then yeah, that may be very similar. But working with these compounds in a lower milligram threshold capacity can elicit very unique and different effects on the body. And so, I would invite in that, you know, that perspective into the conversation. And so, yeah, moving on. So, the initial response. So, when you're working with these medicines at like a large, say, like a full release dose, right, enough to um, put you into a place where your body is completely turned off. Well, the connection body and mind is completely turned off, and the body will sort of unwind itself. I like to call it, well, I like to say it's like you can compare it to pressing rewind sometimes, like on the old VHS videos when it was playing, you can see the image moving backwards. Oftentimes the body has all this tension built up and patterns that are stored in it. And this medicine is like an unwinding of some of those things. People have conversations, point, stand up, move around, become just sort of like going through their unfinished business, as it were. And so there is that experience, and when that comes, we call that like complete ego dissolution, where the idea of the person is released, and then the person, the being, the body can finish doing its business, and then the conscious mind can completely melt away and ascend. The spirit can ascend all the way to source, connect with the creator, and just reside there for, I don't know, sometimes it feels like eternity. And then eventually, plug back into the body. And then that connection of spirit and body, it's like a reuniting or reemergence of like truth. And so it's very interesting how all these different things play out in the ceremony when you're working with these medicines at a very deep level. And so working with them at a microdose level enables the experience to begin to expand into a state of connection, but also still remaining fully apprised of the body, of the experience. And I will say that the safer way to work with these compounds is working with them at a larger dose, sometimes once in a lifetime. Maybe some people like once a year. It all depends on your lifestyle. I work with like ER nurses and paramedics who they're still working. So it's like still accumulating stuff, experiences. And sometimes these, you can't just like, okay, let me just forget this, it happened. And so these medicines help us kind of file it away. So those individuals are more served to develop a relationship with these compounds, so that they can do deeper work with their professions and continue to serve without without beating themselves up and without suffering. And so, yeah. And then moving through like sort of this as you expand, moving in back into the experience, as you expand, like leaving this duality of him or me or her, like just like melting away into the everything. And that allows this somatic reset, right? And so when returning to the body and returning to the wholeness, the body's typically a much more relaxed state. I've seen people who come in like barely making eye contact, barely making conversation, very short, sort of like, rapid eye movements, things like that, which to me shows like sympathetic nervous system is really, really firing and really online. And it's like just noting everything. And then once the experience is complete, it's like such a softness, relaxation in the perspective, the ability to connect, communicate, not have to change things. And so oftentimes this medicine's so good for our heroes and first responders and all these people on the front lines because their body's so activated and tense, right? And this medicine, because it agonizes the vagus nerve, um, really what that does sort of turns off the fight or flight system. It turns off the activation and puts people into a calmer, more soothed way of being. Um, and so, yeah, it's a very beautiful and effective medicine for that aspect. And so, and I'll shift gears a little and talk a little about DMT. So, DMT, similar to like say like psilocybin, DMT. This is a vaporized DMT, right? So again, the visual component to ayahuasca. Most of this medicine is extracted from Mimosa hostilis root bark, and then very, very little is actually synthesized, and it's very difficult to synthesize it. And so, with that being said, this medicine agonizes the serotonin 2A receptor site. So what it's doing is it's creating this like visual experience. It mostly works on that site. It does work on all the other sites, but the visual side is it's the higher affinity for. And oftentimes, again, at high doses, you have this dissolution of ego. But in this experience, it's much more fractured and things are more random. There's patterns, but it's different shapes, different geometry, different various experiential energy flow. And some people see some, specific aspects or anamorphic figures that what I find is they're typically more attuned to seeing or experiencing. Some people experience like elves or clowns or great, great big beings, Mesoamerican gods or serpents or shapes like that. So it can be very interesting in that way because it creates this like really amazing experience. And the difference is a contrast in that it doesn't really affect the gastrointestinal process. So when you approach 5-MeO-DMT, you typically want to be in a fasted, empty state. If you have food in the upper part of your intestines, typically it's going to come this way. And so you want to be empty. With DMT, it's not so problematic. You can go deep. It doesn't work in that body or that system. So yeah. And that being said, I wanted to talk just for a fraction of a moment about the natural versus synthetic um, conversation. So, just wanting to bring into light that there's this conversation that's been being perpetuated regarding natural versus synthetic, and the importance of preserving toads and the habitats, and it's really great. I think it's so super important. But I'll say that in ceremonial approach and settings, I work with the pure compound from the toad, working with the natural substance, and then in microdose ways and with lesser doses or with my own personal meditations, I work with synthetic in milligram sizes through using the light wands. And so the reason why I bring this up is because I think it's so important for us when we commune at the depth, looking for nature to help us. Uh, it's best to ask nature for permission and then use the tools that nature's provided. There's an abundance of toads in the desert, and really the most destructive method of the destructive force of their habitat or of their population's habitat loss, and that's from subdivision developers and other people who are filling the land with rocks and stones, and the kangaroo rats can't burrow, and the toads can't go in there and live. So, and I'll say on the flip side, synthetic 5-MeO-DMT. I know this may sound crazy, but it's true. Like 1 unit of 5-MeO-DMT creates 5 units of toxic waste. So like a kilogram of 5-MeO-DMT makes 5 kilograms of toxic waste. So to me, it's like, do we need to do that, or can we create a conservation effort around these animals and then ask them for permission to use their medicine? There are people in the science community that believe that their medicine their exudate is restored maybe within an hour of um, of exorcism. So yeah, for real, it's a complicated conversation, but I think that it's important for us to remember that conservation means participation, and when you stress a population slightly without killing it, the population tends to grow and explode. So I'll just leave that there, and I'll get off my soapbox and move into the next topic, which is harm reduction. And so I think it's so important for the approach to this medicine to be, we can call it sacred or safe or uh, using harm reduction. It all really means the same thing to me. Coming with reverence, coming with respect. And this medicine, once it goes within you, creates a dynamic in you that, uh, with planning, is very safe. It's a very expansive experience. But without planning, without putting the proper safety protocols in place, it can bring fear and it can bring terror, quite frankly. And that's because your subconscious mind always knows always knows the holes, always knows what's been missed. Even though our logical brain's like, I'm going to put these things together and then use them, when there's a hole in the safety protocol, the subconscious mind will bring it up. And then in the experience, you're like, holy moly. That's typically what when you call bad trips can be. It's like there's a bunch of holes that we've left in our experience, and then you're going to have to see it all. And you're like, oh my God. And what's beautiful though, when we develop a relationship with these things again, without fear, not being afraid of fear, is we can start to see these things, start patching those holes one at a time. And through the experience, once you get all the holes patched, it's like, okay, now we can go get in this rocket ship and see where this thing takes us. But it takes work. It takes attention and time. So, I'll say the approach to this medicine is so key. So setting good intentions. And when I say good intentions, I don't necessarily mean like good versus bad, but I mean useful, semi-specific intentions. Now, if you're setting a specific intention, just create the importance is to create the framework around it to accomplish that task. Like if it's, I'm going to work out every day at 6 a.m. That's very specific. It's great because it's like, okay, you have a specific measurable goal. Now, what I would challenge you to do is before you come to the medicine, build a calendar for 30 days. Just literally color it in there. So then when you go through your experience, your medicine journey, your ceremony, and you come out of it, you've already given yourself a gift. You've already shown yourself the way, given yourself the bricks for the paving of the yellow brick road. And it makes it much easier to land and to kind of get into the process of moving into the life that you seek. And it can be anything. Obviously, there doesn't have to be a specific topic behind it. It's just setting yourself up for a path. In the military, we call it an azimuth. Shoot an azimuth. Maybe you don't know what's going to be on the route, but you have a destination in mind, and then you have a direction. So it can be helpful to kind of approach the experience that way. And then some energetic hygiene is in order here too. So when we spoke about energetic hygiene last week, Cynthia did such an amazing job at sharing some of these practices. And so some of the practices that can be very important coming in is smudging and just calling your energy back in um, to be present for this, and then sending away anything that doesn't belong to you. Just like having gratitude. Thank you for the lessons, the experience, but I'm coming back to myself, and this is a ceremony to welcome myself back home. Um, And then yeah, so and then lighting's key with this. I prefer, if possible, to have windows open, doors open, have access to sunlight if that feels good. I always want to go out into the sunlight after and just absorb that energy. When I'm working with 5-MeO DMT. Now with DMT, nighttime is much more. It's a little more fun, a little more connected because it's a visual medicine. The sunlight will block out the effects outside of like a full release dose. So having a dark uh, or dim area can really elicit a much more fruitful experience with that medicine specifically. And so, and then having the importance also of having an altar. I know obviously we're building on the first conclaves we did, so just trusting that maybe you'll go back and watch that. But in the first one, the first conclave, we went through how to assemble an altar, some of the importance of the items that you have there, and this is a time to invite in things that mean something to you, things of your past, and place them in a place that's nearby to where your experience is going to be, and that will give you it'll give you the ability to connect with those things. Let's say if you get lost or you're really expansive, you need grounding, like, oh, this is a memory, right? These are like memory triggers, but also ways to connect and access greater forms of yourself that are currently not available, right? Just in our skin, here we are in the present. So, yeah, and then you use different various crystals depending on your interests and where you're looking to do or achieve or expand into or change or shift. Setting crystal grids around. I like to set some specific things from my life around the experience to really create a barrier of energetic protection. And sometimes I'm going to go into a little tangent here, but like talking about energy and just wanting to bring in the way that when we use items, let's say material items, to create energetic boundaries. Obviously, this is like how we can navigate life and see things from a pure energetic perspective, right? Because obviously there's things out here in real reality, right? Like wood. This is real material, but also the experience is being beamed into my mind through energetic channels, and then I'm creating it inside of me. And so all of us are doing the same thing. And so when we can connect with that energy and the connection with the inside and the outside of us, and embody those things, then it creates more safety when we leave our bodies and we're in the energetic field. We can actually tune into those things that we placed in the energy or in the material world to help us navigate when we're beyond this state, this plane. So and then so moving on through that experience into a facilitator led role, right? So um, not necessarily that you are a facilitator or you're going to see one, but if you are, you want to make sure that they're doing things to make sure you're safe in the experience as well. And so obviously knowing their experience level, being aware of your safety and surroundings and what sort of plan they have. Is there a third person? Which always recommend a third person to be present, just in case you need extra support in that way. And if that can't be possible, just making sure that your facilitator has access to all the safety devices that are necessary in case you have aspiration and or you have other problems. Approaching these medicines also being informed yourself. Let's get to the nitty gritty. Like, we're all adults in this space, and if you're not adult, then you're posing as an adult, and you got to step up to the plate. So knowing the contraindications, so you should be working with SSRIs, even though there's just been a study published saying that you can safely work with them, and they've been administered to people with high efficacy or high levels of efficacy in working with SSRIs words, and then heart conditions. So if you have or are on heart medication that you've just started, then you may want to have a conversation with your doctor and understand the contraindication there. Now, if you have been stabilized on blood pressure medicine or Other medicines, it may be safe, but again, it's best to talk to your doctor specifically, as this is not medical advice, and that's he or she is the best person to point you in the right direction. And so, yeah, and when you determine you're safe and you have all the things in mind, and then you can create and approach your ceremony. And so if you're going to work with low five light wands in a microdosing capacity, these are things you can do these things with very much we'll say like much more self-imposed safety protocols. And what I mean by that is you're an adult, and so taking and working with small microdoses of this medicine is considered safe. And having someone that you have on your device that you can voice dial is very helpful. And that's a safety thing for real life in case you have say like a physical emergency, but also for spiritual support. So if you're just lost and you need support, just call your friend. Call someone and be like, hey, can you just remind me I'm still a human, or maybe I'm not a human. Remind me of something, and bring yourself back to ground, and they can just sort of have a conversation through it, and that can be really helpful. And these are again, these are things that, and there's services that offer this support. We have a way to contact us through the church and in the safety pamphlet, so you can make appointments if you want to have some aftercare, after support in that way. That's always available too, to help you sort of land and integrate that experience and to continue to deepen your relationship with the possibilities. And so, working with this experience, you want to also ensure that your sound is enriching for this environment. So 5-MeO DMT, when I work with it, when I facilitate these experiences, typically I'm working with music without a count. So there's no beats. So it's either maybe I got these 14-inch crystal sound bowls. So playing sound bowls or other asymmetrical ethereal music, such as like flutes, maybe some chimes, or anything that kind of can elicit this ethereal, timeless experience, and removing timing from the experience, because this medicine is really expansive, right? And I always want to invite in the experience of the timelessness, and time doesn't exist. We've invented it to create measurements, etc. And so, what if we could experience life without time? And so, some of these primordial sounds are such a beautiful essence to bringing those feelings, eliciting those feelings back in the body, and this like sense of urgency and anxiety can kind of go away, and be just left with some peace. And so there are obviously some musics that are a part of what are built into the harm reduction pamphlet that we have. We have a playlist that we've built that will help to guide around the ceremony. I'll share the link to it in this video as well, so you have a way to tune in. And then and then post ceremony work, like as you're coming through the experience and coming back into the body, I'll mention that it's safe to work with these compounds, for up to an hour, 2 hours. I mean, some people work with them for a long time if they choose, but I typically, when approaching a low five ceremony, I'll put a time parameter around it. So I'll say, okay, I'm going to be in the meditation for 60 or 90 minutes, and that way I can guide myself and have my own container of experience. And that, well, I know I just mentioned there's no time, but not in the experience, but having time outside. So that way, I want to focus myself into places. So I'm dropping into this work, just like going to the gym and working the body, going outside. Like this is an opportunity to create this framework around building the emotional and mental resilience, and expanding into expansion into possibilities. So with that being said, yeah, having a time container around the experience can be helpful to move from the meditation and allowing oneself to kind of move into the afterglow, as I call it. It's like this period of time where things are fresh, things are new, things can be more exciting than you ever thought possible. The sun feels more enriching, fruit tastes more luscious. It's just things are different. things are different in those times. So I would always invite, how we offer it in ceremony is bringing in fresh fruits, like somewhat stringent, some sour, some sweet, just kind of give the body a mixture of different textures to taste and experience. And having some like music to land to. And this may be an opportunity to invite yourself into exploring music that someone may have shared with you that you're not really super familiar with, but can allow you to yeah, have some joy. And there's a lot of artists out there that are creating music now uh, for you to feel good, uh, singing about dissolving limits and expansion and possibilities, and not channeling you into their stories or plugging you into sadness. Not that those things aren't important, but just this is an opportunity to grow and to yeah, to dance. And so, with that being said, because this medicine is very somatic, this is a very good time to get up and move the body, because you're in like a reset, re relaxed state. The body, when you get up and start moving it, it may feel kind of like it doesn't want to, like it may feel a little heavy. But this is because you have no patterns. So it's time to bring new patterns in. So when you start moving the body, guess what? You're moving the energy. Anything that's stuck, anything that may have accumulated, that's kind of just lingering. You start moving it, it just starts flying off and becoming more loose, becoming more connected to freedom and exuberance is very nourishing. And that creates a pattern when now you're in life a week, 2 weeks, 3 months later, and music's on, you're moving the body, right? And guess what? All that somatic stress that may have been there is kind of falling off. And that's just the attunement to the experience without even working with medicine anymore. So just inviting that in as a perspective. When I'm working with these medicines in ceremony, I'm always putting music on, dancing and food afterwards. Just get up, move the body, eat some fruit, let the freak flag fly, as they say. Um, and so also as you come back in, um, and start to return fully to yourself, some of the practices that Cynthia shared last week can be very useful, such as just like um, using the golden light wash visualization, just sort of washing this golden light over your body and just like purifying yourself, right? Coming back into the now, into the present moment as your whole self. And then zip yourself up, sealing your auric field is another approach that can be very useful to just making sure you close the ceremony for yourself and you re-embody your own physical structure. And then lastly, my favorites is mirror gazing. And a lot of folks will they'll down this. They're like, don't do, like, cover up all the mirrors and turn them around. I get that. There's some of that to be there, maybe. Uh, but I really like, I invite that in a way where once, maybe in the middle of the ceremony, not the greatest idea, but once we get into the afterglow period, you've returned to your body, gone through the eye, threaded through the eye of creation. Standing in front of the mirror and just like seeing yourself, looking, seeing. I like to start in the center, like here of my nose, and I'll just start like making circles with my eyes and just bigger and bigger until I'm just looking at my whole face. And I invite you to do that practice, to see yourself, to see the truth. Like, this is your body. This is everything is you. And you've created this. Obviously, of course, there's some nature and there's some nurture, of course. Um, but by and large, this is who you are and where you are. And so what this allows, in my view, is when we can have this, like when we can revel in the truth, then we can actually see where we want to go. If we don't actually see the truth within ourselves and imagine some goal or future for ourselves, it's very difficult to actually see and embody that if we can't actually see where we are. So I think it's a very important aspect to kind of really look at yourself. And can I meet that without resistance? Can I meet that with acceptance? maybe with joy, maybe with like love. Can I love myself? Can I love me? Sure, I can. But maybe it takes practice. When's the last time you said I love you to myself, to yourself? I love you. When's the last time that was or something that you reflected to yourself? Maybe this is a time to give yourself an opportunity to do that. Another thing that I love that I got from David Goggins is like accountability mirror type structure. And this is a good opportunity to put things that you maybe want to embody, characteristics that you see in yourself, or some things maybe that you're wanting to let go of, and things you accept. Like, okay, I accept these things. And when you have a list of things, maybe not too obtuse, but a few items that you have written in your mirror and in magic marker, uh, it can be reminders, and you can leave post-its all over your place, just like some like love reminders. So anyway, with that being said, I'll move on to uh, yeah, integration. The uh, integration. Excuse me. I don't know if I lost you or not, but it said lost, but now we're found. So yeah, so the integration part, this is like post afterglow, right? This is like, okay, back in the body. Now what? Well, beautiful thing is you prepared. You created a calendar that had some sort of path for you to follow. And then, yeah, when I work with these medicines and I start to expand, I really deepen my relationship with some philosophies and then some other practices like physical practices. And so integration is a great tool to find some catharsis, maybe. But I also would say that the medicine itself is helping with that already. So, what is integration? To me, it's embodying the changes and allowing oneself to let go of the things that don't serve. And how the methods we can do to use to do these things are we can go to a professional, we can talk to them, we can join groups. There's integration circles. So I know the site in Austin has integration circle once a month. It's great. Tune into that if that feels good to you, and show up and commune with those folks and share stories and get tight. It's really a beautiful experience. Thank you to those who put that on. And then there are a myriad of online integration circles. We're going to start a new one here at the church. I believe it starts the 10th. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's the 10th. That we're going to be tuning back into monthly integration circles as well. So we'll have those as an opportunity. But beyond that, what I would say to invite into yourself is, what are you doing with your free time? Go outside, hike, experience nature, water. The elements are great forms of ways to integrate the experience back into nature. When we can get aligned with nature and allow it to help with the way we vibrate in the world, it just can be much more calming. And then guess what? It can be used as a tool. So when you're having a complex day, you can just go to a trail you've hiked or sit on the edge of a lake that you've been to, and you can be reminded of the calmness, be reminded of the beauty that lies everywhere, and that the small experience that you're having isn't so dramatic that it should take you away from your path. And then once you can reconnect, then you go back on your way, which is you know a very valuable aspect of integration. So getting back on path once one gets off. So yeah, a good question for the self here is like, also like, if you're going to use journaling is a very good tool for integration as well. And so just kind of really just freestyle writing is a good approach, and one I take, where I'll just put the paper down, just start going, like literally everything that's coming to mind, what you're seeing, maybe what you're experiencing, and just allowing those thoughts to kind of continue to coalesce. And what you'll find eventually is it will start to lead into a narrative, or what you're trying to communicate that's maybe stuck or needs to come out, or that you need to see and observe. So journaling can be a very, very useful approach to, let's say, crystallizing the integration experience. And so, yeah, well, I think that's pretty good for today. And thank you so much for um, joining me in this conversation. We have to remind you. I want to remind you that we have the solstice meditation on the 21st. It'll be in the morning. Timing's getting set up right now, but I think it's about 8:30 a.m. What we've landed on. So I'm going to share the flyer information of how to tune in the um, in a post here in on social. And then also, if you're a member, look out in your email inbox. You'll receive a formal invitation where you can log in, register, and have access. It's going to be facilitated by um, myself, by Cynthia, and a few other guest facilitators that may come and grace us with some beautiful music and some breath medicine. So tune into that, and we're really excited to bring that to close out the conference. And then look for us at MAPS. It's going to be a really exciting time. There's so many great events and activations and other experiences to be had. Also share that I have a uh, I've yeah I'm working with the Denver Zen Den, who has two of the vibro acoustic beds that I've created in their lounge or in their experience. And if you're interested in some different vibro experience, maybe something that's more unique than what's currently on the market, check out these experiences. I know there's one on Tuesday and one on Saturday that combines his stroboscopic light with beautiful music and bilateral beats, bilateral vibrations. So those are things you don't want to miss as well. And then, yeah, next week is the Heroes Dose. So that's where we'll be talking about um, topics of your submission and maybe a few or maybe a few different topics of just things that were sort of that are important to us that don't fit into these pillars. And then, yeah, have a little freestyle, make some music. Yeah, so I want to say that I'm very grateful and very thankful to have the opportunity to sit here and share the information with you that I did today. Um, we look forward to bringing more and 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 more information to you that's useful in your process in your life. I believe that healing starts with you, that you have the power to heal yourself, that this planet has given us all the tools we need. They're all around us. They're growing in the soil, they're growing in poop, they're growing on they're growing in animals. Like it's coming from everywhere, and it's like the earth is saying, here you go, heal yourself, you can do this. And so I'm going to continue to bring you messages of empowerment and as much as I can. And I really appreciate you riding this ride with me and with us. I'm so thankful for Cynthia, who couldn't be here tonight. Um, she is uh, tied up with other things, and just really an honor to have the opportunity to come to you with the first few conclaves with her in this way. And so we're very, very, very excited for what's going to be coming in the future. So, yes, thank you so much. I love you, and y'all have awesome rest of your week.